Hi guys, it's the Book Geek, and I'm back to talk about all the books I read in October, November, and December. That's right, it is a 3-month book wrap-up. I failed to do my wrap-ups. I'm behind in videos, so I'm going to wrap up the last 3 months in one video. In the month of October, I read 3 books, 2 horrors, and a mystery. So let's get started. These are in no particular order. I don't remember in which order I read these books. We're just going to talk about the books that I read in October. So, I read World War Z by Max Brooks. It's a horror book, like I said before. It is a zombie recollection. You have this guy, he's going to these different places all around the world, and he's getting different people's opinions and different people's recollections about where they were when the zombie war happened, how they survived. We get to read about how all these different people around the world were affected by the dead rising. He goes and he talks to the witnesses firsthand, different people who were on the front lines, different people who managed to survive. It was like an interview. It was very good. It seemed like it was almost real life. Like real life, hard-hitting journalism. It was a really great book. I gave this book 4 stars. Also, I read Let the Right One In by John Lindquist. This is a vampire story. You've heard me rave about this book several times in several different videos. Don't know what else I can say about it since this is coming after those videos, but I freaking enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You have no idea how happy I am that I picked this book up finally. I've always wanted to read this book, and I finally got a chance to read it, and it did not disappoint. So we have 12-year-old Oscar. He is being bullied at school, and because he's being bullied at school, he's sort of become obsessed with harming others, obsessed with murder. And you know, there happens to be some murders that's taking place in his area in which he lives. And then we have this young girl who moves in with her dad. She moves in next door, and her and Oscar build a friendship, but come to find out, this little girl is not who she appears to be. If you don't know, this is a vampire story. The little girl only comes out at night. We follow different characters throughout the story. There are a lot of different characters in this book, but it was written so well to the point where you don't get confused. And all these different characters are going on their own individual paths, but they're all connected to Oscar and the little girl from next door. And everything seems to come together in the end. In some way, shape, or form, everyone is affected by the things that are happening with the little girl next door. So it was just a fantastic read. The ending was phenomenal. This was 10 times better than the movie. The movie did not do this book justice at all. And I don't know what else I can say about it except that I gave it 5 stars. I also read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Just a gosh darn entertaining book. I mean, it wasn't like hard-hitting literature, but it was freaking entertaining. So we have these 5 students. They walk into detention one afternoon, and only 4 come out alive. Someone dies during detention, and then all the evidence points to each one of these characters. So any one of them could be the culprit. And we spend the entire book trying to find out who is responsible for this boy's death. And, you know, the mystery starts to unweave. You really start to learn more about these characters' backgrounds and why they are the way they are. And they start to build these friendships and relationships that you wouldn't think that these 4 particular people would build because they're so different. And it was just a fun read. I loved it. And it's one of those books where you're trying to figure out the plot twist before it happens. I did manage to figure out the plot twist before it happened, but it was still entertaining for me. I gave this book 5 stars. Now we're going to talk about the books that I read in the month of November. In the month of November, I finished The Mountain Between Us by Charles Martin. It is a romance survival story. So we have these two people who are strangers to one another. They board this plane, a private plane, and it crashes. And they land in the middle of nowhere, high up in the mountains, and it is the dead of winter, and they only have each other to try and survive. And they discover so much about one another, and they end up developing feelings for one another. And in the end, they end up developing this romance, and it was just a wonderful read. It was just, and I loved how the author was able to show intimacy without the whole physical, sexual part of it. That love and intimacy can be something and mean something deeper than physical sex. In the movie, they failed to capture that because they have these two people hook up in the movie while they're out there, you know, trying to survive. And that didn't happen in the book. We see them developing feelings for each other, but the man was very respectful of the fact that she was engaged. She was very respectful of the fact that he had a wife, even though she didn't know the whole story. So I didn't like how they changed that part in the movie. And I also didn't like how they reversed some of the roles in the movie, because in the book it was the man, what was his name? Oh God, what's his name? Ben. In the book, it was Ben who was the optimist, and he was encouraging Ashley to survive. Like, we have to do this, we have to do that in order to survive. But in the movie, they kind of reversed that role and gave it to Kate Winslet instead. And because in the movie we have a black man and a white woman, it kind of seems kind of iffy that they did that, because why can't the black man be the person who is the optimist and trying to survive and taking care of this woman? Why do we have to have this white savior type of reversal type of role? I did not like that at all. I saw the movie before I read the book, and I did enjoy the movie, but after reading the book, I have some real deep issues with the movie now. So anyways, back to the book. Yeah, I thought it was a great love story. It wasn't instant love. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't instant gratification. And those type of love stories seem more realistic to me than that love at first sight crap, even though I do enjoy love at first sight type of things. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I actually buddy read this with an Instagram friend of mine's, Book Love 72. And we discussed the book online and stuff like that. But it was a solid read for me. I also read The Perks of Being a Wallflower in the month of November. In this book, we follow Charlie. He's writing about his experiences throughout high school, the friends he's made, and the things he's coping with in his personal life. You know, first dates, drugs, girls. But then the book also takes a very serious turn when we discover some things about Charlie's past that ends up reoccurring in his memory, and then the story really gets emotional. And we just watch how Charlie and his friends cope with the things that are going on in their young teenage lives. And even though, you know, this is not my age bracket anymore, I can still relate to this book, because some of the things that happen in this book also happened to me as a kid. And also, just because these are high school kids does not mean that the things that they aren't going through aren't important. Because I can still remember when I was back a teenager and was having issues and going through things throughout high school. And even though I'm not a teenager anymore, I can still relate to a lot of the things that's going on in here, because I realize that teenagers are people just like me, and just because I'm a grown-up and I have different type of issues does not mean that my issues are greater than anybody else's issues, including a teenager's. Everybody has their own struggles and have their own internal battles, and who am I to say well, that's just silly high school stuff, you know? So I can relate to the problems on that level. And I just really enjoyed this book. I like the way it was written. It was written in like diary entry format, and like dear friend, and it's Charlie telling the story in this sort of diary format. I gave this book 5 stars. In the month of December, I read 1 book and 5 graphic novels. So the book that I read was Darker by E.L. James. This is a continuation to 50 Shades of Grey. Part 2, the retelling through Christian's eyes. So I already read Grey. Grey was the retelling of part 1, which was 50 Shades of Grey. Grey is Christian's point of view of 50 Shades of Grey, and Darker is Christian's point of view of 50 Shades Darker. I hope that makes sense. So it was just smut and sexy, and of course I always have problems with both Anastasia and Christian, but I enjoyed it. I think I gave this one, gosh, I don't even know how many stars I gave this one. Maybe 4 stars, maybe 3 stars, because I do have issues with Christian. But yeah, in this story we get to see his point of view of things, and we get to get a little bit more insight into his inner thoughts, his deeper emotions, his inner monologues, and some of the scenes that we didn't get a chance to witness in 50 Shades Darker. We get to see that through Christian's eyes. It was a pretty good read. I actually enjoyed the 50 Shades of Grey series, and I can't wait for her to come out with Freed. I'm assuming that's going to be the name of part 3, and that would be the retelling of 50 Shades Freed through Christian's eyes. And so the graphic novels that I finished in the month of December are The Walking Dead, Volume 4, The Heart's Desire. I mean, The Walking Dead is a national phenomenon. Everybody knows about The Walking Dead. But in case you don't, it is a graphic novel based on post-apocalyptic zombie world. So we have survivors just trying to survive, but the danger lurking outside are the walkers, which are the zombies. That's what they call them in the Walking Dead universe. They call the zombies walkers. And so we follow a group of survivors just trying to live. And this is volume 4 of that. Some very exciting things happen in this volume. Right now, this is the part when our survivors are at the prison trying to hold up and find shelter. And lots of fights happen. Lots of exciting things happen in this volume. And we have some epic fights, and it's just entertaining to read. I mean, I love The Walking Dead. I'm a huge fan, so I want to read the entire series, and I'm way behind because they're up in the hundreds somewhere with issues now, and I'm only on volume 4. But anyways, I enjoyed it. I also read The Waking. This is another zombie type of story. We just have people coming back from the dead in this story. We have 4 detectives investigating 2 random murders. The crimes are being committed by people who are coming back to avenge their own deaths. Very interesting. And then I also read The Infernal Pact, Sex, Drugs, and Damnation. This scared the hell out of me. It was very creepy. I don't think I'm going to continue on with it. I enjoyed it, but the story scares the hell out of me because it's all about witchcraft and satanic rituals, and I feel like I'm being corrupted or converted by reading this. So I don't know. It was entertaining. So we have these bikers. They end up making this pact with the devil, I'm assuming, some type of demon, for protection over their group. But then one member of their group ends up getting murdered, and so they call this demon. They summon this demon back and ask him, "Hey, you promised us protection. What happened? How did one of our members get killed? If you promised us protection?" So the demon explains to them that I promised you protection from any mortal danger. So it was something immortal that ended up killing their friend, the member of their club. They commit another sacrifice to get better protection, and then they decide they're going to go after these people who killed their member. The people who killed their member are actually a bunch of drug addicts who sold their soul to the devil practically. They signed a blood contract, signing over their souls in exchange for drugs. They thought it was just some crazy guy selling drugs and that this was all for fun. It was just a joke. It wasn't real. But they signed the contract in their blood, and then strange things start happening to them. And they're the ones who are responsible for this other group's death. And so we're going to have these two groups going up against one another. And it was entertaining, but it was scary as hell. I didn't really like the illustrations too much, but I'm enjoying the story. It scared me. I guess it did what it was supposed to do. And also in December, I finished Saga, Volume 1. This baby right here is one of my favorite books I've read this year. I fell in love with this story immediately. Like I said in some of my other videos, this is a forbidden love story for the galactic age. It is like Romeo and Juliet in space. We have these two people, Marco and, gosh, what's her name? Alana, I think her name is. So we have Marco and Alana, who come from opposing sides that have been at war for years. It's been a never-ending war between her planet and the moon that he lives on. And they get together, they fall in love, and they have this baby, and everyone is hunting them down because these two people are not supposed to be together. And we have all these different people who are trying to kill them or retrieve them or take their baby. It's just, and so we have this dynamic duo, okay, fighting to the bitter end to ensure their survival. I love them together. They're so stinking cute. And I love Marco. He made my favorite book characters list this year. I just admire him so much, how he goes so hard to protect his family. And it's just a great story. We have all these different alien species. The illustrations were phenomenal. The story was riveting. It was exciting. It took me on an adventure. The pacing was fantastic. This was a great read. I cannot wait to pick up Volume 2. I can't wait to finish this. I can't wait to finish this graphic novel. I am so excited to read this. In the last book I'm going to show you guys to wrap up this 3-month wrap up is Skyward Volume 1. This was another fantastic graphic novel. Illustrations were phenomenal. Storyline, phenomenal. Character, phenomenal. We have a black female protagonist that is gracing the cover, and she is written in comic form. All here for that. All here for that. So in this story, we are on Earth, but Earth's gravity is practically non-existent at this point. We have people floating in the air. In this book, we have Willa, and she has a father who hasn't left the house since G-Day, I believe. And G-Day is the day that we lost gravity on Earth. A lot of people died that day. A lot of people floated out into space. If they couldn't catch on to something, they just kept floating and floating and floating until they went into outer space. A lot of people died that day. And so her father, he lost her mother on that day. She floated away. He couldn't save her. And he hasn't left his house in over 20 years, I believe. And his daughter, she ends up discovering that this guy that used to work with her father or know her father or something to that effect, she's thinking that he can convince her father of something. And so she goes seeking him out. But she doesn't realize that there's a reason why her father's been in the house for 20-something years and hasn't had contact with this person. And so by the time she discovers that, it's kind of too late. The man attacks her, and he comes after her father. I don't even think that he knew that her father was still alive. So now her life is in danger, her father's life is in danger, and she's trying to get back to her father to warn him and to get him to safety. And we go on this amazing adventure as she's trying to stop the things from happening that she caused in the first place. So it was a great read, and we get to see this amazing world and how people have adjusted to living on Earth with practically no gravity. Really great story. I gave this one 5 stars. So that's it for my 3-month wrap up. Those are all the books that I read in the month of October, November, and December. Please stay tuned for my 3-month book haul. I'm going to show you all the books that I purchased or was given in October, November, and December. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. Let me know down below, what was your favorite book from October? What was your favorite book from November? What's your favorite book from December? Leave me a book emoji and I'll leave you a heart. As always, happy reading, and I will talk to you guys another time. Bye.